Well, I got interested in the application of psychology to learning and studying purely because as a new lecturer, it's one of the areas I was assigned to teach. And strangely enough, it's often regarded as a bit of a poison chalice. And the reason for that is that students are often very reluctant to engage with study skills materials. And one of the reasons for that is that often people argue, well, I've got into university, surely my study skills are up to scratch. But that's often not necessarily the case. So it started as something really which I was assigned to do, and I started thinking, how can I actually make this, one, more entertaining and enjoyable for the students, but also it's one of the most important applications of psychology you can think of. It's how people learn, the application of psychology to make learning easier for the students. So I developed a real interest and a kind of passion for incorporating psychology into trying to improve the way that students go about learning. Well, my objectives in writing the book were kind of fourfold, really. The first objective was I wanted to produce a skills text that was informed by the evidence. So what psychology could tell us about how you can become a more effective learner. That's really important because if you go in Waterstones or anything, you'll see there are a lot of books out there, but a lot of them, although the advice isn't necessarily bad, there's no connection with the actual research behind it. And sometimes it's just pontificating on behalf of the author based on their own anecdotal experience. So I wanted something that was actually genuinely informed by the research. So if the students implement it, there would be a good chance they'll actually benefit from it. The second thing I wanted to achieve was to actually narrow things down to what are the rudimentary study skills you need to be able to navigate university successfully. So things like you need to be able to read like an academic, note take like an academic. You need to understand what aspects of our cognitive faculties can hold us back from learning. You need to understand how to give a decent presentation. You need to understand the psychology of teamwork, how you get along and work productively with others, how you go about revision. So all of those main topics I kind of wanted to cover. But I also wanted to keep the advice manageable. What I didn't want was a book chock-a-block full of checklists and tables and graphs and words. I wanted something which distilled the advice down into fundamental points the students could easily remember. The third thing I really wanted to achieve was something that was suitable for students of all disciplines. I didn't want to write a psychology textbook that was only really usable to psychology students. I wanted something that hopefully would inspire a bit of interest in psychology in physicists, in chemists, but moreover would help them study more effectively. And lastly, I wanted to make it a bit entertaining. I didn't want some sort of dry textbook that was a real, pain in the backside to read. I wanted something which would reach out and engage people and get them interested in thinking about what it is to be an effective learner. Yeah, undergraduates often say that, well, do I actually need study skills text? And the answer is yes. Or at the very least, okay, well, let's find out. And the only way you'll find out is if you evaluate your own skill level. What you often find is undergraduates enter a degree off the back of having, a reasonable amount of success in their A-levels or other preparatory, qualifications. And naturally, they're kind of enthusiastic and they're optimistic about their prospects. But often what can happen is the level of study tends to ramp up at degree level. And that illuminates any failings in the approaches you take to studying that might not have been obvious at lower levels. So what you can often get is students suddenly finding out that study strategies that may have worked okay for them at A-levels or other qualifications suddenly don't really meet the requirements when you get to degree. And that often results in students getting very disorientated and very kind of frustrated with their topic matter. They sort of feel a bit overwhelmed, like I've got all this reading and I can't seem to take any of the material in, or I've no idea how you go about producing a good essay. What worked for me before isn't working anymore and I don't know why. So what I was trying to do is produce a book that explain to students why that's the case. And very briefly, one of the reasons why people are often unaware that their skill level isn't high enough is it's the very skills you need to be good at something that are the skills you need to evaluate how good you are at that thing. So this is what they say when ignorance is bliss. Sometimes it's only when you start learning about a subject you realise how much you don't know, which is why it can seem so intimidating.